Katie Morrison walked into the medical room on the space station. She was a human officer working with aliens for the first time. The Coalition had many different species from across the galaxy, and humans had just joined 6 months ago. Katie was one of the first humans to live and work among them. The doctor was a Vrixian. It had 4 eye stalks that moved around on top of its head. Katie could not say its name properly even after trying for 3 months. The doctor looked at a floating screen that showed the results of Katie's blood test. The colors on the screen were strange. Lines of alien writing moved very fast. The doctor seemed worried. All 4 of its eyes looked at the screen, then at Katie, then back at the screen. Something was wrong. The doctor spoke, and a small machine turned its words into English. The voice sounded mechanical but clear. It said that the medical computer system had a big problem. It could not understand Katie's blood. The test results did not make sense. Katie raised her eyebrow. Before she left Earth, doctors had checked everything about her body. They made sure she was healthy. They sent all her medical records to the Coalition. Everything had been approved. So why was there a problem now? She asked the doctor what kind of problem it was. The doctor's small arms moved nervously. It explained that the computer found 17 things in her blood that should not exist. The artificial intelligence system said her cells were biologically impossible. Before Katie could ask more questions, the floating screen changed. A new window appeared. The alien writing changed into English. Then a computer voice spoke out loud. It asked a simple question: "What is Earth?" Katie was confused. She asked the computer to repeat the question. The doctor explained that the medical database had no information about humans. The system did not know what species Katie belonged to. It was asking for basic information about where she came from. Katie told the doctor that she had already submitted all her medical records. Earth was in the Coalition database. Humans had joined the galactic community 6 months ago. All of this information should already be in the system. The doctor moved its eye stalks in a way that looked like a shrug. It explained that the medical system worked separately from the political database. The medical computer checked blood samples against a list of all known life-bearing planets in the galaxy. According to this system, Katie's planet should not exist. Katie felt cold. She asked what the doctor meant. Why should Earth not exist? The screen changed again. Now it showed a 3-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. A red dot blinked at the location of Earth. Around the red dot, large areas of space were colored differently. Blues, greens, yellows, and purples covered different sections of the galaxy. The doctor started explaining. It said the galaxy was divided into zones. Life in each zone developed in similar ways because the chemicals in each area were similar. Stars in the same region created planets with matching elements. Life that grew in one zone would be similar to other life in that zone. But Katie's blood showed markers from 7 different zones, 7 completely different areas of the galaxy. These zones were not compatible with each other. Life from one zone could not survive in another zone. The chemicals would kill them. Yet Katie's blood had markers from all 7 zones at the same time. The computer thought this was an error. It thought the data was corrupted or wrong, because what it was showing could not be real. Katie leaned forward to look at the map more carefully. She asked how this was possible. How could one species have markers from 7 different zones? The doctor said it was not possible. That was the whole point. Katie had proteins in her blood that should only exist near strong radiation. Her cells contained parts that came from creatures living in acid atmospheres. Her DNA had repair systems that suggested her ancestors faced many different dangerous environments. The doctor paused. Its eye stalks pulled back slightly, like it was nervous or scared. It told Katie to understand what it was saying. According to every database in the Coalition, according to 47,000 years of studying alien biology, humans should have died out billions of years ago. The different chemicals inside her body should fight each other. They should destroy her cells from the inside. But instead she was standing there perfectly healthy. Katie looked down at her hands. She opened and closed her fingers. They looked normal to her. Just regular human hands. She asked if the doctor was saying that humans were biological anomalies, that humans were strange or wrong somehow. The doctor said yes, that was the most polite way to say it. Katie's immune system alone had parts that would kill most Coalition species from the inside. Humans had bacteria in their stomachs that made poisons. These poisons would kill 98% of all known alien species. Yet humans needed these bacteria to digest food. Humans used poison to stay alive. The screen pulsed with light. More text appeared, scrolling too fast for Katie to read. The doctor said the system wanted to start a special research protocol. This was very rare. The last time the Coalition did this was 4,000 years ago. That was when scientists discovered crystal-based life forms in another galaxy. Katie thought about what this meant. Humans had worked very hard to join the Coalition. There had been many meetings, many treaties, many agreements. Some alien species seemed uncomfortable around humans, but Katie had not understood why until now. Now she knew. The aliens were afraid. They were afraid because humans should not exist, because human biology broke all the rules that the galaxy understood. Katie asked what would happen if she refused the research protocol. Could she just say no? The doctor looked at her with all four eyes at once. It said they could continue with a normal examination. The doctor would file a report saying the medical system had a technical problem. But the doctor strongly advised against this choice. Katie asked why. Why was it so important? The doctor explained. In 6 months, more humans would arrive at Coalition stations. Thousands of them. Humans would spread across the galaxy as they joined galactic society. Every single medical scan would show the same impossible results. The questions would not stop. Every alien species would want to understand how Earth created humans. How one planet made a species that should not exist. Katie took a deep breath. Her mother had always told her that being first at anything came with responsibility. Katie was the first human to work on this station. She had to make the right choice, not just for herself, but for all humans who would come after her. She told the doctor to start the protocol. But she had 2 conditions. First, she wanted full access to all research findings. She wanted to know everything they discovered. Second, she wanted to be the one who reported the findings back to Earth Command. She would tell Earth what the galaxy had learned about humanity. The doctor's translation device made a sound that might have been approval. It agreed to her conditions. Then it said something that made Katie feel cold again. The doctor said this discovery would change how the galaxy viewed humans. Everything would be different now. Katie asked how it would change. What would be different? The Vrixian doctor looked at her with all 4 eyes. For the first time since Katie had arrived at the station 3 months ago, she saw real emotion in that alien gaze. The doctor was not just curious anymore. It was not just doing its job. The doctor was afraid. The doctor spoke quietly. It said it did not know yet how things would change, but it suspected something important. The galaxy had been underestimating humans. Everyone had been thinking humans were just another new species. Just another planet joining the Coalition, but they were wrong. There was something special about coming from Earth. Something that made humans fundamentally different from every other species in the galaxy, and the doctor suspected they were only beginning to understand what that difference meant. 3 days passed after the strange blood test. Katie received a message asking her to come to a special meeting. The meeting room was in a part of the station she had never seen before. It was deep inside the research section, behind many security doors. Katie had to scan her eyes, her fingerprints, and her hand 4 different times just to get inside. When she entered the room, Katie saw aliens she had never met before. One creature looked like clear jelly and glowed with soft lights. Another being looked like a large crystal that sparkled in the light. In the middle of the room stood Dr. Venn, the chief scientist of the station. His species, the Terulans, had been studying alien life for thousands of years. Longer than humans had been using tools. Dr. Venn had 3 fingers on each hand. He pointed to an empty chair and asked Katie to sit down. He apologized for all the secrecy, but what they had discovered needed to be kept private for now. Katie sat down. She suddenly felt very aware that she was the only human in a room full of the galaxy's smartest scientists. She asked why they needed such heavy security just for a blood test. Dr. Venn turned on a holographic display in the center of the table. Katie's cells appeared slowly spinning in 3 dimensions. He explained that his team had spent 72 hours studying her blood sample. They had checked databases from every Coalition world. They had run computer simulations using machines normally used to map stars. He paused and looked directly at Katie. He said that humans were impossible. Not as an expression or an exaggeration, actually mathematically impossible. The chance of human evolution happening naturally was so close to 0 that their computers could not tell the difference between that chance and complete impossibility. Katie felt her stomach tighten. She asked if he was saying humans were created artificially. Were humans made by someone? Dr. Venn shook his head. He said he wished it were that simple. When species are created artificially, scientists can see the marks of design. There are patterns, intentional choices, obvious signs that someone built that species on purpose. But humans had none of those signs. Instead, humans showed all the marks of natural evolution. But evolution from 7 different environments at the same time, 7 environments that should kill each other. The crystal being spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. It said that humans evolved naturally, but in a way that should be impossible. Humans came from incompatible environments that could not exist in the same place. The holographic display changed to show planet Earth. Continents, oceans, clouds, all slowly rotating in the air above the table. Dr. Venn asked Katie to tell them about her planet. He wanted her to describe everything about Earth. Every detail was important. Katie took a breath and asked what they wanted to know. Dr. Venn said to start with the atmosphere. What did humans breathe? Katie explained that Earth's air was mostly nitrogen and oxygen. About 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, with small amounts of other gases. The jelly creature pulsed dark red. It said that 21% oxygen was a corrosive environment. Most coalition species would die in that atmosphere. They would consider it poison. Katie blinked in surprise. She said humans breathed oxygen. Humans needed it to live. Without oxygen, humans would die in minutes. Dr. Venn nodded. He said that was one of the strange things about humans. He asked Katie to continue describing Earth. What were the surface conditions like? Katie thought for a moment. Earth was very different in different places. There were hot deserts, wet rainforests, frozen tundra, deep oceans, and high mountains. Temperatures could be as low as -90 degrees Celsius in some places. In other places, temperatures reached +56 degrees Celsius. It all depended on location and season. The room went completely silent. The kind of silence that felt heavy and oppressive. Katie could hear her own heartbeat. The crystal being finally spoke. It said that was not possible. No single planet could support life across such extreme differences. Katie's planet should have multiple completely separate biospheres that could not interact with each other. Katie explained that Earth kind of did have separate biospheres. Different species lived in different environments. Polar bears lived in the frozen Arctic. Camels lived in hot deserts. Fish lived in the oceans. But they were all Earth life. They all evolved together on the same planet. They were all connected. Dr. Venn's hand started shaking slightly. He asked where humans lived. What was the natural environment for humans? Katie said humans lived everywhere. Humans had adapted to every climate on Earth. There were humans living in Antarctica, in the Sahara Desert, in the Himalayan mountains, on tropical islands. Humans could survive in all of these places. The holographic display changed. Now it showed Katie's DNA next to DNA from other species. Lines connected different parts, showing similarities and differences. Dr. Venn spoke very quietly, almost in a whisper. He said this explained everything. Katie's planet was not one environment. It was 7 different hostile environments, all overlapping in the same physical space, and humans had adapted to all of them at the same time. The crystal being said again that this was impossible. Evolution did not work that way. Species specialized. They became very good at surviving in one specific environment. They did not maintain multiple different adaptations for conflicting conditions. That made no sense. Katie spoke quietly. She said that humans did exactly that. Earth kept changing dramatically. There were ice ages where everything froze. There were volcanic periods where the air filled with ash. Asteroids hit the planet. The climate shifted constantly. Species that could not adapt to change went extinct. But some species survived by becoming generalists. They kept many different survival strategies active at once. The jelly creature asked how many extinction events Earth had experienced. How many times had most life on the planet died? Katie remembered her school lessons about Earth's history. She said there had been 5 major extinction events that scientists knew about. The most recent one happened 65 million years ago. That event killed all the dinosaurs. Dr. Venn sat down heavily in his chair. He repeated the number. 5. He said most planets with life experienced one major extinction event in their entire history, if any at all. Katie's planet had survived 5. And after each extinction event, life did not just barely survive. Life thrived. Life became more diverse and complex. The crystal being made a sound like breaking glass. It said this changed everything scientists knew about which planets could support life. Earth should be classified as a hostile world, a planet too dangerous for complex life. Instead, Earth was one of the most biologically diverse planets in the known galaxy. Katie spoke slowly, trying to understand. She asked if the scientists were saying that Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that most aliens could not survive there. Dr. Venn met her eyes. He said no. They were saying something more extreme. Earth was not just one death world. Earth was 7 different death worlds all occupying the same space, and humanity had evolved to survive all 7 of them simultaneously. Katie looked down at her hands again. These ordinary hands could grip tools, climb rocks, swim through water. These hands worked equally well in heat and cold. Hands that seemed completely normal until she realized what they represented. They represented impossible adaptation to impossible conditions. The jelly creature spoke again. It said there was more. They had analyzed Katie's muscle tissue, bone density, and heart. Katie's planet had gravity nearly 20% higher than Coalition standard. Katie had been living on the station in what was essentially low gravity for humans. Katie admitted she had noticed she could jump higher on the station. She thought it was just because the artificial gravity was set differently. The jelly creature explained that the station's gravity was optimized for average Coalition species. Most aliens found it comfortable. For Katie, it was low gravity. Her species had evolved in high gravity conditions. Combined with the hostile atmosphere, the extreme temperatures, and the evolutionary pressure from multiple extinction events, humans were built for survival. The creature trailed off, but Katie understood what it was not saying. Humans were built to survive conditions that would kill most Coalition species easily. Humans were strong, adaptable, and resilient in ways that most aliens could not match. Katie said it out loud. She said humans could survive things that would kill most Coalition species. Dr. Venn agreed with a simple yes. Then he explained why this was important. This was why Katie's medical scan had triggered security protocols. The implications were profound. This information could destabilize galactic society, because now every species in the Coalition would know that humans were fundamentally different, fundamentally stronger, fundamentally more dangerous. Katie spent the next week in constant meetings. Earth Command wanted detailed reports about what the scientists had discovered. The Coalition Science Council wanted presentations. The diplomatic teams wanted risk assessments. Everyone suddenly realized that accepting humans into galactic society might have been a mistake. Katie was in her quarters, reading through the latest batch of questions, when someone knocked on her door. The visitor was Captain Lisa Chen, the commander of the station's security forces. Lisa was the only other human on the entire station. Lisa walked in without waiting. She said they needed to talk. She asked if Katie had seen the latest intelligence reports. Katie pointed at her data pad, which was buried under stacks of scientific papers. She said she had been busy explaining why humans should not exist. Lisa pulled out her own data pad and projected a holographic newsfeed. She said the blood test results were causing big problems. 3 Coalition worlds had formally requested that human membership be reviewed. 2 more worlds were demanding restrictions on where humans could travel. And there was a fringe political group claiming that humans were biological weapons created by some ancient civilization. Katie felt angry. She said humans were not weapons. Humans were just adapted to their home environment. That was all. Lisa sat down. Her expression was serious. She said that Katie's home environment happened to be far more hostile than anything most Coalition species had ever encountered. She asked Katie if she could blame the aliens for being scared. Katie asked what they were scared of. Humans were peaceful. Humans had followed every rule and signed every treaty. Humans had done everything right. Lisa pulled up another display showing physical comparison charts. She said the aliens were not scared of what humans had done. They were scared of what humans could do. Dr. Venn's team had been running simulations. In any physical fight, an average human could overpower most Coalition species without even trying. Human bone density, muscle strength, and reaction time made humans incredibly dangerous compared to most aliens. Katie thought about the Vrixian doctor with its soft body and delicate eye stalks. She thought about the crystal beings who could shatter from a fall. She thought about the dozens of species she had met who all seemed fragile compared to human standards. Katie said firmly that humans were not going to hurt anyone. Humans came to the galaxy in peace. Lisa leaned forward. She said Katie knew that and she knew that. But the aliens did not know that. She explained what the situation looked like from the alien perspective. They saw a species from a death world, a species built to survive extreme conditions, a species with the physical strength to dominate most coalition races, a species that did not even know it was abnormal until a few days ago. What did Katie think that looked like? The answer was obvious, even though neither of them wanted to say it. To the aliens, humans looked like an invasion force that did not know it was an invasion force. Katie's communication device beeped. Another message from Earth Command. She ignored it. She asked Lisa what humans were supposed to do. Apologize for evolving the way they did? Lisa stood up and started pacing around the small room. She said humans needed to show the aliens who humans really were, not just what humans could do, but who humans chose to be. The coalition had been peaceful for thousands of years. They had forgotten what it was like to face real danger or hardship. Humans had not forgotten. Maybe that was what made humans different. Before Katie could respond, a loud alarm blared through the station's speakers. Red warning lights flashed along the walls. Both women immediately grabbed their emergency equipment. A mechanical voice announced through the speakers. All personnel needed to report to emergency stations immediately. There was a hull breach in Section 7. Immediate evacuation was in effect. Katie and Lisa looked at each other for 1 second, then ran toward the door. Section 7 was where the main research laboratories were located. As they ran through the corridors, Katie thought through the possibilities. A meteor strike? Equipment failure? Deliberate sabotage? Whatever had happened was serious. The evacuation alarm meant people were in immediate danger. They reached the security checkpoint and found chaos. Station personnel from a dozen different species crowded the corridor. Some were injured. Others were in shock. A Vrixian security officer was trying to maintain order, but too many people were talking at once. Lisa shouted for a status report. Her command voice cut through the noise. The security officer turned its eye stalks toward them. It explained that small meteors had impacted Section 7. The hull was breached in 3 locations. They had sealed the section with emergency bulkheads, but 6 people were still trapped inside. One of them was Dr. Venn. Katie felt her stomach drop. She asked how long it would take for rescue teams to cut through the bulkheads. The officer said it would take 20 minutes to cut through. But the trapped personnel only had 12 minutes of oxygen left. Katie did the math quickly. 8-minute difference. Not enough time. The trapped people would die before rescue teams could reach them. Katie asked if there was another way into the section. The security officer said there was a maintenance shaft. But the shaft was compromised. It was exposed to the vacuum of space. There was no air and no temperature control. It was essentially a passage through the outside environment. Katie looked at Lisa. The captain's expression was grim but determined. Katie asked how long their emergency suits could hold pressure in a vacuum. Lisa answered that the suits could maintain pressure for 20 minutes. That was more than enough time to reach the trapped people and bring them back. The Vrixian officer's eye stalks pulled back in alarm. It said it could not recommend this course of action. The shaft was structurally unstable. The temperature inside had dropped to -100 degrees Celsius. The radiation exposure alone would kill most species within minutes. Katie was already walking toward the equipment lockers. She said it was a good thing humans were not like most species. They put on their emergency suits quickly, checking seals and oxygen levels with practiced efficiency. The suits were designed for average coalition body types. That meant they were too large and loose on Katie. But they would work. They had to work. The maintenance shaft was exactly as bad as described. The moment they entered, Katie felt the temperature drop through her suit. Ice crystals formed on her faceplate. In the distance, she could see starlight through the hull breaches. Those tiny points of light represented exposure to space, exposure that meant instant death for most life forms. Lisa spoke through the communication system. She told Katie to move fast. The structure was unstable. One wrong step could cause more decompression. They moved through the shaft faster than would be safe for most coalition personnel. But their bodies, evolved on Earth to handle stress and danger, treated this as just another challenge. Katie's heart rate was elevated but controlled. Her breathing was steady. Her muscles responded instantly to every command. 5 minutes later, they reached the emergency hatch to Section 7. But there was a problem. The hatch was jammed. Katie looked through the small window in the hatch. She could see twisted metal where the meteors had punched through the hull. Beyond the hatch, she saw movement. The trapped people were still alive. But they would not be alive much longer. Lisa worked on the control panel. She reported that the manual override was not responding. The electrical system was completely fried. Katie examined the hatch mechanism. It was standard coalition design, made to be operated by species with delicate hands and precise movements, not designed to be forced open by raw strength. But coalition engineers had probably never considered that someone might need to force it open. Katie told Lisa to stand back. Lisa moved aside without asking questions. She had seen Katie working out in the station gym. She had seen Katie lifting weights that made the equipment groan and bend. She knew what was coming. Katie gripped the manual release lever with both hands. She pulled. Nothing happened the first time. The mechanism was designed with many safety features to prevent accidental opening. But this was not a time for safety features. This was a time for action. Katie braced her feet against the wall. She used her full body weight and all the muscle built by evolution in Earth's high gravity. Something in the mechanism made a loud screeching sound. The lever moved. Not smoothly. Not the way it was designed to move. But it moved. The hatch cracked open. Katie and Lisa pushed through into Section 7. The laboratory was a disaster. Equipment floated in the zero gravity caused by the loss of artificial systems. Papers and data pads drifted through the air like snow, and huddled in the corner, surrounded by makeshift barriers built from lab equipment, were 6 terrified scientists. Dr. Venn was among them. His normally calm face was tight with fear. When he saw Katie and Lisa, his large eyes went even wider with surprise. He spoke through his emergency oxygen mask. He said he could not believe humans had come through the maintenance shaft. That route was supposed to be impossible. Lisa said there was no time for questions. They needed to evacuate everyone immediately. The rescue team was cutting through from the other direction, but the trapped scientists would run out of air before the rescue team could arrive. Katie quickly assessed the trapped personnel. There were 2 Vrixians, 1 Taralan, 1 crystal being, and 2 species Katie did not recognize. All of them looked at her with expressions of hope mixed with disbelief. One of the Vrixians spoke up. It said the maintenance shaft was exposed to vacuum. The scientists could not survive the transit back through that environment. They would die within seconds. Katie said they would not have to survive it on their own. She was already pulling emergency pressure bags from the supply locker near the door. These bags were Coalition standard issue. They provided temporary environmental protection during evacuations, but there was an immediate problem. The pressure bags were designed for standard Coalition body types. They were lightweight and minimal. They were meant to be carried by species adapted to gentle environments. Species that could barely lift their own weight in many cases. The bags were not designed to be hauled through a compromised maintenance shaft by humans. Humans whose ancestors had hunted prey by running after it for hours across hot African plains until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Katie and Lisa looked at each other. The same thought appeared in both their minds. This was going to be difficult and painful, but it was possible. Lisa gave the order. Everyone needed to get into the pressure bags immediately. She and Katie would carry them out. The crystal being made a sound of distress. It said that carrying people through the shaft was impossible. 3 scientists for each human? The weight alone would be too much. No one could carry that much weight through such a dangerous environment. Katie secured the first pressure bag around Dr. Venn. She checked all the seals quickly and efficiently. As she worked, she explained that on Earth there was a sport called powerlifting. People competed to see who could lift the most weight. The world record was over 500 kilograms. Katie did not mention that 500 kilograms was measured in Earth gravity. Earth gravity was 20% higher than standard Coalition gravity. She also did not mention that she personally could lift 200 kilograms without much effort. The crystal being repeated that this was impossible, but now its voice sounded uncertain instead of confident. Lisa muttered quietly while securing her group of scientists. She said humans heard the word impossible a lot lately. 4 minutes later, they began the return journey. Katie carried 3 pressure bags attached to her suit harness. She felt the weight, but it was not crushing. It was manageable. Lisa had 3 more bags attached to her harness. The scientists inside the bags were silent. They might have been in shock, or they might just be conserving oxygen. The maintenance shaft seemed much longer on the way back. Katie's muscles started to burn with effort. But it was a familiar feeling. The same kind of burn she felt during training exercises on Earth. The same burn from long-distance runs. The same burn from survival courses conducted in conditions that would send most coalition species to the hospital. Her suit's temperature gauge was flashing red warnings. The extreme cold was seeping through the insulation. -100 degrees Celsius. That temperature would freeze most biological tissue solid within minutes. That cold would cause most coalition species to lose consciousness from shock almost immediately. Katie just kept moving, 1 foot in front of the other. The same way ancient humans had crossed ice ages. The same way humans had migrated across frozen continents thousands of years ago. The same way humans had survived when they should have died. They emerged from the maintenance shaft 11 minutes after entering it. The Vrixian security officer was waiting with a full medical team. The doctors immediately rushed forward to attend to the rescued scientists. Katie removed her helmet. She was breathing hard, but her breathing was steady and controlled. Lisa did the same. Her face was flushed red from exertion, but her expression was calm and composed. Dr. Venn emerged from his pressure bag with help from medical personnel. His eyes found Katie across the crowded corridor. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other without speaking. Then the Taralan scientist did something Katie had never seen any coalition species do. He bowed. It was a deep and formal bow, a gesture that spoke of respect and something more profound, something that looked like true understanding. One by one, the other rescued scientists did the same thing. Even the crystal being, whose species did not normally express physical deference to anyone, tilted its structure in acknowledgement. The Vrixian security officer approached Katie. All 4 of its eye stalks focused intently on her face. It said it had witnessed what Katie and Lisa had accomplished. It said it did not understand how such a thing was possible. But it was grateful. Katie managed a tired smile. She said they were just humans doing what humans do, surviving difficult situations, helping others survive. That was all humans had ever been good at throughout their history. The security officer's translation device made a sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been a sob. It was hard to tell. The officer said it thought the coalition was only beginning to understand what being human really meant. Over the next few hours, word of the rescue spread throughout the station. Katie and Lisa gave their reports to station command. The rescued scientists were all checked thoroughly by medical teams. Everyone survived without serious injury. The hull breaches were sealed. Emergency repairs began on Section 7, but something had changed. Katie noticed it in the way aliens looked at her now. There was still caution in their eyes, but the fear had transformed into something different, something that looked almost like respect, maybe even admiration. Late that night, Katie sat in her quarters reviewing the day's events. Her muscles ached, her body was exhausted, but she felt something she had not felt since arriving at the station 3 months ago. She felt like she belonged here. Her communication device chimed. It was a message from Dr. Venn. He wanted to schedule another meeting, but this time the message said something different. This time he did not want to study her. He wanted to thank her, and he wanted to discuss humanity's future role in the coalition. Katie smiled and set up the meeting for the following day. Then she lay down on her bed, still wearing her uniform, and fell asleep within minutes. She dreamed of Earth, of blue oceans and green forests, of mountains reaching toward the sky and deserts stretching to the horizon, of a planet that tested its children with fire and ice, a planet that forged its children in conditions that would destroy most other forms of life. And she understood, perhaps for the first time, why Earth had created humans the way it did. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to survive, and more importantly, to help others survive. That was the true gift Earth had given to humanity, not strength alone, but strength combined with compassion, power combined with responsibility, the ability to face impossible odds combined with the desire to help others face their own impossible odds. Katie woke the next morning feeling refreshed and ready. Ready to meet with Dr. Venn, ready to help the coalition understand humanity, ready to show the galaxy what humans could contribute. Because the galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Humans were not weapons. Humans were not conquerors. Humans were survivors who never forgot that survival meant helping others survive too. And that made all the difference. 3 weeks passed after the rescue. Katie found herself back in the same conference room where she had first learned the truth about humanity's impossible biology. The same scientists were present, but the atmosphere in the room had changed completely. Where there had been clinical detachment before, now there was warmth, something that almost looked like friendship. Dr. Venn stood at the head of the table. His usual calm composure had returned, but there was something new in the way he carried himself. Respect, Katie realized, maybe even admiration. He began speaking formally. He said that on behalf of the Coalition Science Council, he wanted to thank both Katie and Lisa, not just for the rescue operation, though that alone would deserve recognition, but for what they had taught the Coalition about humanity. Katie exchanged a quick glance with Lisa. She said they had just done their jobs. Nothing more, the crystal being spoke up. It said no, they had done something the Coalition thought was impossible. They had survived conditions that would kill most Coalition species. More importantly, they had done it to save others. That was what the Coalition had failed to understand about Earth and its people. Dr. Venn activated the central holographic display. It showed planet Earth again, but this time the view was different. Layers of data covered the planet's surface. Biological diversity markers, environmental stress indicators, evolutionary adaptation patterns, all displayed in overlapping colors and symbols. Dr. Venn explained that his team had spent the past 3 weeks analyzing Earth's complete evolutionary history. What they found was remarkable. Not just the extreme environmental conditions or the multiple extinction events, but how life responded to those challenges. The display zoomed in to show microscopic views of different cell structures. Dr. Venn continued his explanation. Most life in the galaxy evolved on worlds classified as gentle. These worlds had stable climates, consistent environmental conditions, very few existential threats. When species on these gentle worlds developed intelligence, they did so in environments that rewarded cooperation within their own species. But these environments did not require constant adaptation to change. The jelly creature added its own observations. Its bioluminescence pulsed thoughtfully as it spoke. Earth was completely different from those gentle worlds. Earth tested life relentlessly and without mercy. Ice ages alternated with periods of intense volcanic activity. Asteroid impacts destroyed entire ecosystems. Continental drift constantly created and destroyed habitats. Predation pressure drove evolutionary arms races between species. Earth was a crucible that tested life to its absolute limits. Dr. Venn spoke quietly. He said humanity was forged in that crucible. Humans evolved not just to survive one type of environment, but to adapt to many different environments. Not just to endure hardship, but to thrive despite it. Not just to preserve their own kind, but to help others survive as well. He paused and met Katie's eyes directly. He said that last part was what the Coalition had completely missed. The Coalition had been peaceful for thousands of years. They had grown comfortable in their peace. They had become complacent. They had forgotten that survival sometimes requires sacrifice. That survival sometimes requires strength. That survival sometimes requires the willingness to face danger to help others. Lisa spoke bluntly. She said the Coalition had been scared of humans. Scared because humans were stronger, more adaptable, and better at surviving than most Coalition species. Dr. Venn admitted this was true. He said the Coalition had been wrong to be scared. Strength without compassion was merely violence. Survival without purpose was merely existence. But humans possessed both strength and compassion together, both survival instinct and the desire to help others survive. The crystal being chimed softly. It said that in the maintenance shaft, Katie and Lisa could have easily saved themselves. They could have left the trapped scientists to wait for the rescue team. That would have been the logical choice. The safe choice. The choice most Coalition species would have made. The jelly creature continued the thought. It said the humans did not make the safe choice. They risked their lives. They pushed themselves beyond what the Coalition thought possible, not because they had to, but because they chose to. That choice was what made humanity extraordinary. Not their physical capabilities alone, but their willingness to use those capabilities to help others. Katie felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. She had spent weeks defending humanity's right to exist, explaining human biology, justifying why humans should be allowed in coalition space. But this was different. This was not just acceptance. This was true understanding. Katie asked what would happen now. Would humans still be reviewed? Would there still be restrictions on human movement? Would humans still be watched with suspicion and fear? Dr. Ven's expression became warmer. He said the opposite would happen. The Coalition Council had voted to expand humanity's role in galactic society. The Coalition needed what humans brought, not just human strength, though that would be valuable, but human perspective, human adaptability, human willingness to face challenges that the Coalition had grown too comfortable to address. He pulled up another display. This one showed a star map with many highlighted solar systems. He explained that there were worlds on the edges of Coalition space classified as too hostile for colonization. These planets had extreme environments, unstable climates, high radiation levels. The Coalition had ignored these worlds for centuries. They were content with their comfortable, gentle worlds, but these hostile worlds had valuable resources. They had scientific importance. They had strategic value, and now the Coalition had a species that could not just survive on those worlds but potentially thrive there. Lisa leaned forward with clear interest. She asked if the Coalition was offering humans the death worlds. Dr. Ven corrected her gently. He said the Coalition was offering humans opportunities, chances to explore, to expand, to show the galaxy what Earth-born resilience could accomplish, not as conquerors trying to dominate others, but as partners, as the species who could go where others could not. Katie thought about this offer. She thought about humanity's history of exploration, of pushing into hostile environments, of thriving in places that should have killed them. Humans had gone everywhere on Earth. They had conquered every climate. They had adapted to every challenge the planet threw at them. Antarctica, the deep ocean, the tops of mountains, the depths of jungles. Humans had been everywhere. And now the galaxy was offering humans the same opportunity on a cosmic scale. The chance to explore hostile worlds, to push the boundaries of where life could exist, to bring human resilience to the stars. The crystal being spoke again. It said there was something else, something the scientists had discovered in their research, an unexpected pattern in the data. The display changed to show a timeline stretching back millions of years. The crystal being explained that Earth's extinction events were not completely random. They were catastrophic, yes, but they occurred at intervals that suggested a pattern, as if something had been deliberately stressing Earth's biosphere, forcing life to adapt, testing life to its absolute limits. Katie felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. She asked what the scientists were suggesting. Dr. Ven admitted they did not know for certain. Perhaps it was nothing, perhaps just coincidence, but some members of the Science Council believed Earth might have been deliberately cultivated, that something in the galaxy's distant past recognized Earth's potential, that something nurtured Earth through environmental pressure, creating conditions that would forge life capable of surviving anywhere in the galaxy. Lisa said that was just speculation. Her voice carried uncertainty despite her words. The jelly creature agreed it was speculation, but it was speculation that made logical sense. The galaxy was vast and ancient. Perhaps some previous civilization understood what the current coalition was only now learning. That comfortable worlds breed comfortable species, but harsh worlds breed something more. Worlds that test life to its breaking point and beyond breed something special. Katie asked what those harsh worlds bred. What made species from harsh worlds special? Dr. Ven met her eyes steadily. He said harsh worlds bred survivors. Not just individuals who could endure hardship temporarily, but species whose fundamental nature was to adapt, to persist, and to help others persist. Species that looked at impossible situations and refused to give up. Species that said not we cannot, but we must. He gestured to the star map showing countless worlds waiting beyond current coalition space. He said the galaxy was entering a challenging period. Resources were depleting on established worlds. Climate shifts were occurring. New threats were emerging from deep space. The coalition needed humanity, not because humans were stronger, though they were. Not because humans were more adaptable, though they were, but because humans had never forgotten how to struggle, how to fight, how to survive when survival seemed impossible. The crystal being added a final thought. It said Earth had given the galaxy a precious gift. Not warriors, not conquerors, but survivors who remembered that survival meant helping others survive. strength used in service of compassion, resilience tempered with wisdom. Katie looked at Lisa and saw her own thoughts reflected in the captain's.